It's Dorothy Guining with Scrapbooking Quebec. Today I'm here for the Scrapbook Nerd online shop, and my challenge is to create a fall-themed layout using material from the Maggie Holmes Garden Party collection, which has a definite spring-summer vibe to it. So in this video, I'll create the page, but I'll also talk you through my thought process of how I turn this spring collection into a fall one. So here's what I've selected for today's project. And to my surprise, with all the neutrals and B-sides in this collection, I was able to make it work for fall photos quite easily, I must say. I'll also be using that stamp set. It's by Studio Light, and I got all of these products at the Scrapbook Nerd online shop. So I will link up the products I use and the shop in the description box below. Now on my desk, the first thing I want to show you is what I have left from this garden party collection because it's really springy and cheerful. And I used tons of this collection, so there's a lot more to it than what you see. So for this fall themed challenge, I went through what I had left and I pulled out anything that was neutral. And I found that it went really well with my fall photos. That's me in the woods taking photos this fall. In advance, I started preparing a frame style foundation with 3 sheets of paper. I did gut that wood grain paper, but I'm keeping that white paper that goes on top separate for the time being because I'm going to want to work with it a bit later on. I'm showing you the ephemera pieces that I've selected. Again, I went through the ephemera pack from what I had left of it, and I selected all the neutrals, so grays, whites, blacks, gold. Same thing for this cut apart sheet. I'm showing you the baggie because I had cut that apart a long time ago, and it really is colorful. But if you look at it, there's one of the 2 cut apart sheets. If you look at it, there are full of neutrals within all of those colors. I'm also showing you some scraps of paper here because my plan, because this is going to be a fall layout, is to cut out some leaves. So that is a die set from Elizabeth Craft Designs. I'll be using the leaves from it. And that is the stamp set I mentioned earlier. It's going to be part of my background paper. Anyway, I'll talk more about those tools throughout the process. The first thing I'm going to do is continue preparing my foundation page. So I decided not to use the black and white chevron paper, but I am going to use the other 3 printed papers here, and I'm cutting them down into horizontal strips or into strips of paper. And what they will do is create a horizontal shelf across the page. I'm putting measurements for what I'm doing on the screen, but really what's important here is that these strips of paper are different sizes to create a layered look. So I'm going to show you how I plan to place it. And my plan at this point is to create an L design, or more precisely a backwards L design. So the horizontal part of the L is going to be those strips of paper. I'm showing you how I plan to place my photos on this. But the vertical part of the L is going to be a stamped out border, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. So this is the new stamp set by Studio Light. It's part of the Grunge collection. I absolutely love it. It's a really big stamp set. I've never used it before, so what I'm doing right now is testing it out on a piece of scrap paper, and I'm doing that for a few reasons. Number one, to see how well it stamps, and it does stamp out really well. I'm using this stamp that says, "Trust your crazy ideas." But what I really want to do is kind of line these up, and I want to see if that's easy to achieve or not. And in fact, it is. And another thing I want to do is I want to cut this out and place it on my foundation page before I actually commit and stamp on the foundation page, because I want to see if I like it or not. This is kind of a different look for me, and I don't want to muck up my foundation page. So what you're going to see me do is kind of place it on the paper here just to give me an idea if I like it. Now, I do like it. It's very different for me, but I'm also dying to use this stamp set that's new to me. I find it really fun. So I decide, what the heck, I'm going to commit, and I am going to adhere. I'm going to stamp on my foundation page. My foundation page, by the way, is the Simple Stories Color Vibe paper. One side is wood grain. The flip side is the line paper, which is what I'm using. I could have easily used white cardstock here, but when I started this project, I thought I would be doing my journaling directly on the page. It turns out I'm not. I still like the look, but I guess what I'm saying here is you could easily do what I'm doing here with just plain white cardstock. So now I have that stamped. You can see I have my border placed. It's not adhered. And before adhering, I do want to apply a bit of ink. So this is VersaFine Clair ink. It's called Morning Mist. It's like a dark smoky gray. And it's the ink color I like to use when I ink the edges of my paper. It's kind of blackish, but it's not quite so harsh. But the ink I use to stamp out Trust Your Crazy Ideas, that also was VersaFine Clair, but it was their black ink, and it really does a nice crisp black on a stamped image. So those are basically my two favorite colored inks, or the two inks that I use the most often, I guess one could say. So now you see I'm adhering my foundation page together. I put that white paper on top of the frame, and now I'm adhering this layered horizontal border on the page. You can see also there's a big gap in that stamped border, and that's because I knew I would be covering it up with the photos and the paper. Now I have my Big Shot out and I'm punching out some of these leaves. So this is one of two new floral die sets from Elizabeth Craft Designs, and what I'm doing is punching out leaves. I'm using the different squares in that gingham type paper. Again, that's from another Maggie Holmes collection from the Marigold collection, and that gold paper is from Tim Holtz. And if you look at that gold paper, those dies actually emboss on it, and it looks absolutely fabulous on that metallic cardstock. I'm just inking up the leaves, not the metallic ones, but all the paper ones, again with that Morning Mist gray ink. So all around me, I have a bunch of embellishments right now. I'm showing you my leaves, and because I punched out the leaves in those different blocks, it gave me a bunch of different colors. I also have the metallic leaves. I just showed you a pile of ephemera. Again, it's all the neutrals that I've selected. Same thing here for the cut apart sheets. And those cameras actually came from the Maggie Holmes Marigold collection as well. Those two collections work really well together. And by the way, they're both available at the Scrapbook Nerd also. I have the sticker sheet from the Garden Party collection and some wax paper, and I have a pile of alphas and titles here from my stash. I'm not quite sure at this point what I'm going to do for a title, or if I'm going to have a title or not. At this point in my head, I'm thinking maybe that stamped out border will serve as my title. So I'm placing my photos, and now I want to start creating embellishment clusters. So what you just saw me do was place a large ephemera piece, which almost looks like a picture, behind that mushroom photo, which is what I was taking a photo of in these photos. So I like that look. I'm creating a cluster there in the bottom right. I started with a larger ephemera piece, came in with a cut apart sheet, which essentially will serve as my journaling box. I also came in with a few other pieces, including a large vellum gold rose that I tucked under there. But what I want to do is create kind of a diagonal design with my embellishment clusters, and I want something in the top left. So what you see me doing right now is creating a faux fold for the top left corner. So I cut out a block of that wood grain paper, which is actually part of my foundation page, and I also cut out a 3-inch block, the same size, in that text paper, which is part of that horizontal border. What I did was I scored it on the diagonal, that text print, and I folded it in half to give me a triangle. And now what I'm going to do is adhere that wooden block, that wooden 3-inch square in the top left corner. I'm bumping it right up against the foundation page with that wood grain paper. And then I will adhere that triangle to the bottom half of that square. So it's going to look like that lined paper is folded over. I did apply a bit of that Morning Mist ink around the edges of that triangle there with that text print, and now I'm adhering it on top of it. So there you see it. It looks like it's folded over, but it's not. Now what I'm going to do is continue with my embellishment cluster. So off camera, I took a few of the neutral colored stickers from that sticker sheet from the Garden Party collection and put it on wax paper, just so I could play around with placement without actually sticking it to the page. So I put like this, it's like a gray and white rose in the cluster at the bottom right, and also one tucked behind that fold in the top left. Now I'm poking in a few leaves around that flower coming out of that fold in the top left. I'm really liking how that's looking actually. And at this point, I would like to continue adding the leaves, but I feel like I got too many loose pieces on my page, so I am going to have to start adhering. You can see me playing around with that camera cut apart sheet in the top left as well. I am going to adhere that there a bit later on, but right now I want to just adhere what I have decided upon on the page. So I'm applying a bit of ink first, once again that Morning Mist ink, to the ephemera pieces, and I'll also apply it around that frame. You see me doing that right now, and that's going to house that little photo there of the mushrooms. Now I will start adhering all of these big pieces down, and then I'll come in and add some finishing touches. I'm just going to talk about layered looks on a layout right now for a moment while I'm doing this, because you may notice a lot of stuff does get covered up, and that, to me anyway, is part of the game when creating a layered look. Because when I started this layout, I had no idea where all of the elements were going to be placed. So I adhered things down, I placed things, and just by nature of this technique, things get covered up. So for me anyway, when I create a look like this, I have to be okay with covering things up. Back to my layout. You can see here I'm tucking in these leaves here. I'm absolutely loving that corner, by the way, in the top left. I am applying a bit of ink once again around that little camera there. And the reason why I'm liking the camera up in that corner in the top left is because it's almost creating, or it is creating, a visual triangle in black and white. The other two parts of the triangle are the top part of that stamped vertical border and the bottom one. To me, that creates a visual triangle, and I do like the look. So I'm coming in with the leaves, the finishing touches in the bottom right corner there. I'm not quite sure about this, but I'm just playing around with it. That does get switched up a little bit. I do adhere them right now. And then what I will do is decide on a title. Like I mentioned earlier, I wasn't sure if I was going to use a title or not, but in the end, I end up putting a title in that bottom right corner. And what I end up doing is mixing the stickers from the sticker sheet from the Garden Party collection with those black foam alphas that you see there in the top right corner. So off camera, what I ended up doing, you'll see that in a minute, is I put the title on, I put a couple titles actually on wax paper just so that I could play around with it. So because I didn't quite know what I wanted as a title. You can see there I popped that camera in the top left with foam adhesive, and there I come in with the two title words that I mentioned earlier. So I put the word beautiful on wax paper. I have the word autumn and I have the word fall, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to use. And I decide to use the word fall. To me, it just worked better, the small word with the long word beautiful. I adhere all of this down, but what I end up not liking about it, if you look at the word beautiful, it kind of overlaps a rose sticker that I put underneath the journaling box, and then the journaling box is a little bit up. And I find it kind of confusing, and I also find that that sticker underneath of the rose is kind of useless because it's mostly covered up. So what I ended up doing, luckily the word beautiful came off easily. I removed that. I removed the rose sticker. I moved down the journaling box. So now the word beautiful overlaps the journaling box and I can see the word beautiful better. And I ended up putting the rose sticker above the journaling box. And then I just kind of added a few more leaves there coming out from underneath the word beautiful. And I'm happier with that. To me, the title looks a little less confusing. So all I did off camera is add a bit of journaling, and I did add one tiny gold punched out circle to the middle of the camera that you see in the top left. So that was it. So I just want to review my process of how I took this spring collection and turned it into a fall layout. Basically what I did for me is I looked for all the neutrals, and that wasn't tough because Maggie Holmes collections really are full of them. I ended up using the paper, the stickers, the ephemera, and the cut aparts, and they all worked. To finish up, I did add some punched out leaves to the clusters. So this beefed up the clusters, but it also reinforced the fall theme. So that was it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the Scrapbook Nerd YouTube channel, we would be absolutely thrilled if you did. The same thing for my channel, Scrapbooking Quebec. Don't forget to check out the shop. There are tons of fun products you'll find there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon on YouTube. Bye-bye.